The Shift is brought to you by SE Healthcare. Welcome to The Shift. I'm Dr. Andrea Coyle. Shifties, welcome back to the Shift podcast. I'm excited today. Dr. Jamie Wiggins is joining me from Arkansas, and we're going to talk about his shift in his career from nursing leadership, and then he shifted into the Chief Operating Officer role. So, Dr. Wiggins, please take it from here, introduce yourself, and then we'll just kind of riff back and forth, and hopefully the listeners will find a lot of knowledge to take away from today's episode.
Happy to be here and happy to participate today and discuss with you. I am currently the Chief Operating Officer for Arkansas Children's, located in Little Rock, Arkansas. We have 2 hospitals, ambulatory clinics, a foundation, a research center. But I've been a nurse, pediatric nursing, my entire career. I've been very fortunate in my career to travel across the country. I've held leadership roles at UCSF San Francisco, Children's Minnesota, Nicholas Children's, and then I spent a little over 4 years in New Orleans as the Chief Nursing Officer, Chief Clinical Officer, and just celebrated my 4th year here at Arkansas Children's. I'm happy to share my experience with you and the Shifties.
I'm so excited for you to be here, and you've really had a lot of shifts, even what you just described, because it's a shift. I always talk about shifting from geography to geography and living all across the country. Different little pockets of the country have different cultures too, and I'm sure you've
Absolutely.
experienced that. What I really want to talk about, and why you and I have had some discussions, is your role as the Chief Operating Officer. Jamie, can you describe, number one, the transition or the shift from being the CNO to the COO?
Yeah. So I was very fortunate when I was the Chief Nursing Officer in New Orleans. I had a boss that valued nursing and really allowed me to take on unique opportunities. Some of the things that I got to do that not all chief nursing officers do is I got to be over human resources for a couple of years. And through that work, really did some deep dive with our mutual colleague and friend, Joe Ty, on the culture work at Children's Hospital in New Orleans. We established the first set of values at Children's New Orleans and really just had an opportunity to lead people, and just success begot success, and really set me up in a position where I had a wide range of accountability and really started to believe that I could be a chief operating officer and really have my nursing lens spread across our entire organization. Luckily for me, my boss here in Arkansas really saw the value of a clinician in the operating role. Uh, Arkansas Children's had clinicians in the role as COO before, PharmD, but I was lucky to be the first permanent nurse to have the role. The interim COO just before I joined was also a nurse. And so my boss has really enjoyed how that clinical lens really helps with decision making and keeping kids at the center of what we do.
But first of all, I have a couple of shout outs. Number one, shout out to Joe Ty. He connected us, which
He
is
did.
amazing. Bonnie Barnes connected me with Joe Ty. So you see how those connections are amazing. And you mentioned something that I love and I love to talk about is culture. And Joe Ty does an incredible job, he and his team, of creating these positive cultures where people not only survive, but they thrive. And I think it's important to be in a culture. You mentioned success begets success. And what did that look like when you took the baton from the previous chief operating officer, who was a nurse, and now you're the nurse? What did that look like? What were some lessons learned from that particular chief operating officer?
Yeah. So she had the role for about 8 months, really was in a transition. And really, I would say we have great people. We believe very much in a one team culture. I think that with all of the headwinds and tailwinds in healthcare, we as an organization have stayed really true and centered to the fact that families are at the center of what we do. And our values really are safety, excellence, teamwork, and compassion. And my boss really tells us all the time, we lead with safety and excellence as the bookends, and we do that work through teamwork and compassion. And so that lets you know that we want to be the safest organization for kids and really focus on excellence. Excellence is not perfection. We are human beings. We will not be perfect, but we are always continuously striving to be excellent. And we really ask all of our team members across our system, across the state, to always stay really true to that commitment to excellence and to do it in the safest way possible. So that interconnection between our team members and I was something that was passed on to me by the previous COO whenever I joined Arkansas Children's.
I love it. And one thing I say about excellence all the time, Jamie, is excellence really has no endpoint. And
Right.
and it's hard work. That's why we got into this. One thing that I hear, I don't want to say often, but sometimes is, the chief nursing officer is laser focused on compassionate care. And often the perception is the chief operating officer is laser focused on cost, and sometimes care gets left on the back burner. Tell me about making that incredible intersection of cost and care in the COO role.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, I've been very fortunate. I had some really great nursing mentors in my career, and I have never set up in a situation where nursing operations and finance sat on different ends of an argument. We each bring our lens, but at the very beginning of the day, throughout the day and the year, we are committed to partnership and making sure that we make the right decisions. The CNO has to understand the business of healthcare. One of my very first leaders that I worked with as an observation graduate student from UCSF was with Pam Wells, who was the CNO at Packard Children's at the time. And she really ingrained in me the importance for the CNO to really understand the business of healthcare. And what I will tell you is that that has carried me throughout my career. How I have been able to be a successful nurse executive is because I was actually able to translate the value of nursing to non-nurses. It's very difficult for non-nurses to understand the dynamics of patient care delivery. And I believe a nurse can be successful as the CNO whenever they understand the business of healthcare that they're working in, and how they can translate that into advocating for their teams. So when I moved into the COO role, I'm very clear that I'm not the CNO. And one of the things that I reached out to colleagues and friends in my professional network who were nurses who moved to the COO ranks, and they said, make it really clear you're not the CNO. The healthcare delivery, the foundational parts of how they theorize and give care, what their professional practice models look like, that is clearly a CNO's role. And so I make sure not to step into the CNO's role. I'm happy to be a resource. I'm happy to be a thought companion, but recognize that's where the CNO needs to sit. As a COO, what I really try to do with my CNOs is partner and understand that we're working together. And yes, we have financial realities of our healthcare system. We have things that we have to work on together, but I make it very clear that we're not adversarial. We have the same goal. We have a different lens. We have a different seat at the table, but the CNO's voices is always important. And I look to see how I can make sure I empower the whole multidisciplinary care team to give the best care in partnership with my CNO. And I would say CFO. I think the importance of a CNO and CFO relationship cannot be understated. And so continuing to nurture that and make sure we understand what our chief financial officer friends are looking at is always important.
Oh my gosh. I love that you're saying this. In my conversations really across the country, it's I'm hearing more and more of the incredible really it's a strategic imperative for the organization, for the COO and the CNO to have a very collegial, trusting relationship. I'm going to shout out to Melissa Fitzpatrick. She and the folks over at Kirby Bates, they recently, I don't know if it was a webinar or put out a paper on the importance of the CNO-COO relationship. And that's what really sparked me to reach out to you as well as Joe Ty making the connection. So tell me about a time when you and the CNO had to advocate for something, and what was your role And what was the CNO's role?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that all of us have to advocate for is making sure that we're staying competitive in our marketplaces for salaries. The CNO a couple of years ago, through our monthly operating review, indicated and highlighted to us that we were losing graduates that were not taking our offers as new grads, which for a children's hospital is very unique and a rare challenge. We typically have lots of people that want to work at our organizations, and we're typically usually put in communities where we're the only children's hospital available. So I worked with the CNO to really understand, and our CH, our chief people officer, to really understand where were our salaries, where were people going, what did we need to do, and we needed to make an adjustment in our budget that our board had just approved in the neighborhood of $5 million to make sure that we were staying competitive with salaries for nurses. And I have to say, it was not without dialogue and focus. But I have to say, I'm very fortunate. The CEO, all the way across our executive team, understands the importance of patient care. And so we were able to partner together, show why it was important for us, show why this investment was really critical for us to quit spending dollars on high labor travelers. And so it was really successful. And so I'm really happy and proud and honored to work with an organization that values partnership. I think every executive has a little bit of ego. It's kind of why we want to get up and make an impact on the world. But it's not lip service. I am truly honored. One of the things that gives me great satisfaction in my job today is the level of partnership that we have among our C-suite.
I have to tell you, Jamie, we've only had two or three discussions, and every time I hear you speak, you almost make me want to go back to school and get my MBA. I have my doctorate in executive leadership and innovation, but the business piece is definitely one of my opportunities. And when I hear you, you're like incredibly inspirational. And I hope that people are listening to this thinking, wow, Jamie just gave me some really good thought, food for thought, that if I do aspire to continue to go up the ranks in leadership, I really have to have in healthcare, I really have to have a background in business and
Look,
operations.
absolutely. And there's a lot of pathways to get it. I'm a lifelong learner. I mean, that's how you end up with two master's degrees and a doctorate. But for me, if I learned the knowledge, I wanted a piece of paper or a credential at the end to demonstrate my journey. There are lots of great nurse executives that don't have MBAs, but they have put in the time and effort that it took to understand financials, financial analysis, the economics of healthcare in a much deeper way. So education is certainly one journey, and there's a MHA, MBA, combined academics. And when people reach out to me and ask me, what do I need? And I first start off with, where do you want to go? And when you know where you want to go, that will help you understand the curriculum path that you might want to take. I will tell you, I learned a lot in my MBA. Nicholls State gets a great call out for me in terms of their preparation. But I tell people all the time, it's what you put into it. It's how you want to learn and how you want to use that information. I will not say that my MBA made me a better leader from my core. I had a strong foundation in my values as a leader. It did allow me to have financial conversations in financial language and made me much more effective at the negotiating table.
Let me ask you this, Jamie. At Children's Arkansas, um, do you, maybe not in the COO role, but maybe you collaborate with the CNO for onboarding for new leaders? Do you offer classes or workshops that help newer leaders get education as it relates to operations and business?
We do. We do. And I would say we continue to refine that and make that deeper. I've been very fortunate in the last couple of years to hire two great chief nursing officers and have done a couple of different things to help support them. One, give them an executive coach so that they can make a successful transition and have a resource to somebody that's not their boss on how they can move into the executive ranks. What I've also done is connected them in a formal mentoring relationship with a previous children's healthcare CNO that recently retired, and have given them connection with that person, a come on site visit, look at the AONL competencies for leadership development and help map their journey. Because while I do want to be the leader that people can come to and challenge and ask questions, I also want to recognize we all sometimes want to be vulnerable maybe with somebody who's not our boss. So really at the recommendation of an external partner in my network, was connected with the CNO that I knew who had retired from Vanderbilt. And she has been in a year-long mentorship relationship with both of my CNOs. And that's really somebody that can teach them the role of the CNO. So they have executive coaching support. They have someone that's walked in their shoes support. And then they also, of course, have access to us as an executive team internal. And they have both flown beautifully.
Have you ever had that program published, or did you ever present that? Because it's pretty amazing the way you just described it.
No, we talked about it a little bit. They're each getting ready to have a couple of years under their belt, and I think the next round of A&L callouts, we can figure out how we present that and publish it and disseminate it. It's something that I did not have as a new CNO, but it has certainly made the world of difference to mine.
And I think as the healthcare landscape, I'm not going to say changed, I'm going to use the word shift. As the healthcare landscape shifts, as you know, as everybody who's listening knows, we have to be laser focused on the financial pieces. Because if we're
Absolutely.
not, yeah, I mean, we're going to self-destruct if we don't. The other thing I have to mention, Jamie, just because I work for SE Healthcare, and SE Healthcare is a company focused on creating a culture of burnout awareness and a culture of burnout management. Have you seen in your leader roles how burnout can contribute to our great profession, maybe losing some of our great leaders because of burnout?
Yeah. We talk about that a lot internally. I've certainly had great leaders that I know personally that have opted not to stay in leadership or have opted to take opportunities outside of healthcare. I I do not think it can be overstated the opportunities and challenges that we have in acute care healthcare in this country, both in the adult and in the children's space. I think our regulatory environments are changing all the time. Our financial pressures are changing all the time. And what we have to always remember is that our healthcare teams are powered by the people that we have. Our human capital is the most important resource we have. And so we're on a journey to make sure that we are supporting our team members from wellness, from someone to talk to, eating healthy. I just got something from our organization I didn't even know we were doing, that if I wanted to sign up for help on losing weight, my weight journey, we have a whole program that we're just running out for people to have highly individualized service. And it's hard. And there is no job harder than our middle manager. Our middle management team has the hardest job. They are trying to manage the resources, motivate our teams. And so I'm really happy. Our CNO just did a year-long work at span of control and put a span of control
I
that
love
would
it.
work. I'm happy to say we're probably one of the few organizations that I'm still aware of that has night shift managers. So management team members that are on the night shift that are really supporting that night shift and weekend teams. As a former weekend option night nurse, I know just how important it is. I tell people all the time, we are only as safe and as informed as the person who works on Saturday night at 2 a.m. So we're really trying to continue to focus on our people, and it really is a journey. We haven't landed there yet, but we continue to do the focused work.
I love that you just said that, Jamie. I'm presenting at the Texas Organization of Nurse Leaders in September, and the theme is Back to the Future. And it's such an oxymoron, but what you just said resonated with me. Back to the future. When I was a new nurse at the Cleveland Clinic in Cleveland, Ohio, we had a nurse manager on day shift, evening shift, and night shift. And it was highly successful. And for it to come full circle again, it's you got to go back to get us to the future sometimes. So I love that you said that. I think the shifties are really going to take that away as something to really consider in their leadership toolbox. Um, when we think about burnout and in your role as the chief operating officer, when people are burning out on the job, it is an incredible, whether you're in a leadership role or in a direct care delivery role, it costs organizations a lot of money. And if you factor in missed care, medication errors, as you know, a lot of our quality metrics are public knowledge, and it sometimes impacts market share. I think what you're doing at Arkansas Children's is incredible to help keep your leaders as crisp and fresh as they possibly can be, so that they can just absorb all this knowledge and continue to lead nurses well into the future. So I want to say congratulations. Everything you described is amazing. I'm so glad that Joe Ty did connect us. And if you could share 2 of your lessons learned on your journey, what would they be for the Shifties?
I think one of the biggest lessons for me is always invest in the next generation of leaders. I've been very fortunate in my career to be able to enter organizations at a time when they did not believe they had the talent internal to fill that role. And every time that I've left, they've been able to fill that role internally. So I definitely believe in succession planning and team building and empowering leaders. My personal leadership story is leaders create leaders, and I create leaders through mentorship and removing barriers. So when people interact with me, they know I want to help them and I want to help them be successful. So the one is invest in the next generation. Number 2, take care of yourself. I know it's cliche, but you can't fill a cup from an empty pitcher. And so making sure that we are taking care of ourselves and showing and role modeling to our teams that it is okay to step away from work. It is okay to recharge your batteries. And I think remembering to invest in the future and take care of yourself will allow us to be really great leaders.
Oh my gosh. Amen. I agree. Dr. Wiggins, thank you so much for your knowledge, for your leadership, and really thank you for, I'm sure by the end of this podcast, people are going to shift their mindset. And I guarantee someone's going to email me or someone's going to text me and say, oh my gosh, Dr. Wiggins, I love what he said. I'm going to go back to school, or I'm going to take the experiences to learn more about the business piece. And that's why we have the Shift podcast. So thank you so much for your leadership.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. I look forward for our continued staying connected, and happy to connect with anybody who would want to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm there, I'm active, and always happy to meet people in the healthcare space, and grateful for the time with your Shifties.
Thank you so much. And remember, Shifties, your shift makes the difference. Keep shifting. Enjoying the shift? Help us reach more nurse leaders by rating and reviewing us on your podcast app. It takes just a minute, but makes a big impact. Search for The Shift, tap those stars, and share what you love. Your feedback shapes our future episodes and helps others discover us. Remember, rate, review, and amplify the shift today.